now that you've, heavily researched these things and had further encounters, do you think that's possibly where they make mistakes and end up being seen by humans, is being focused on another
path? I'll give you an example of this that Bear and I both saw. Bear and I were up at we were researching in Land Between the Lakes one time, and we were easing along down the road, and in my big old F-250 Super Duty, diesel. And you know the kind of racket that thing makes.
Yeah. It rattles his ass off.
Yeah, and we're easing along and had the damn headlights on and the fog lights and everything, and just easing along down the road, and we see something out in the lights in front of us. We see some deer hauling ass across the field in front of us.
Yep.
And I flipped the high beams up, and Bear says, look at that. And I didn't see exactly what he's talking about. Well, he had a spotlight in the car, in the truck. Well, he went out the damn window with that spotlight and clicked it on, and caught two boogers running wide ass open across that field chasing those deer. And as soon as that spotlight hit them, they froze and they ran in behind some trees. Yep. And we sat there and watched them, and behind those trees for what, Bear, 10 minutes or so?
Yeah. Well, it's like they was peeking around the trunk of that tree.
Yeah.
Wanting us. Well, y'all get the hell on out of here and let us resume what we was doing,
Exactly. They'd sit there and they'd be back behind the tree. Then you'd see one eye, but there was one of them. Finally, he just sort of walked out there in between a couple of trees. He was standing there looking at us. And in fact, we had, I had binoculars and stuff in the truck. And I grabbed my binoculars up and we took turns holding the light on him and then looking through the binoculars. And through the binoculars, you could see them clear as very clearly, when we'd put the spotlight on them.
Them were black ones, wasn't it, Tim?
Yeah, they were. They were black.
Yep.
Just black as they could be. Well, there was one of them had a little bit of gray on him,
but
the other one appeared to be solid black.
One. Yeah, he was the bigger one.
Yeah.
No.
But we sat there and watched those things for a good 10 minutes, and like he said, it was like, and I tell you one thing, I never did shut that engine off either. In fact, I'm not sure I even ever took it out of gear. If they decided they were tired of us and came at us, I was going to open up an extra large can of Gone. But they totally were not paying attention to us till we put the spotlight on them. And hell, Bear, what were we? We were within 100 yards or so of them.
Oh, we was 30 when they was chasing the deer, but then when we caught them in the act, they decided to get gone to that tree line.
Yeah, but they didn't.
Those steels up there are pretty. Oh, that's the most excellent ecosystem. If anybody ever wanted to go and see a booger, you just got to know what you're looking for and know where to look, basically.
I guess they would have had to be within about 30 yards because we didn't see them.
Well, we saw.
We saw the deer.
Right.
Yeah, right. We saw the deer, and then I had the low beams on, and then when I flipped the high beams on, that's when we saw the deer real clear, and then you spotted the boogers, and so the headlights on that truck were not all that good. I had the stock headlights,
that's because all the damn bumps we always hit over the years going in some of the areas we went to, and the beams dropped.
Yeah, you had those Jack Elam headlights.
Yeah, yeah, really, and but like I said, Bear put the damn spotlight on them, and like I said, it was like what he said when that bear finally saw when that booger finally saw his grandfather. They slammed on the brakes. It's like, oh shit, they got us. They caught us, and they turned around and hightailed it back to the tree line. Actually, it was just a hedgerow that went along a line of trees along a ditch that went out across that field, and they ran back in those trees and stopped.
Yeah, we've noticed that they get so intent on what they're doing at times. They're very one-tracked. I mean. And I think that's a lot of times when they make mistakes is they're so focused on what they're intent upon. And that, that goes along logically with everything we've learned about them. I mean, we're their entertainment anyway. When they turn around and they get to the point where they are focused on a certain object, it's hard to tear their attention away from it.
Well, that story also brings up another interesting observation that we picked up over the years. You hear, and we're like this too. We go in areas, we have gone into areas, and we try to maintain a general rule of lights off. You don't spotlight them. And a lot of people think that the reason for that is these spotlights will run them off, but that's not really the case, is it?
Nope.
Actually, it'll stop them from approaching, but it don't make them leave.
We actually use spotlights and flashlights as a defense mechanism. I mean, we always take firearms, but we don't prominently display them. But we figured out that and they're very night sensitive in toward their vision. They can see very well in the dark. And to be just take, for example, if you put on some generation 1, 2, or 3 night scope goggle visions, Gen 3s or whatever, and then you're out there in the dark, you're looking around, you can't see as well as they can, but you can see, especially the later generation vision. But if somebody was to flash a flashlight or a spotlight into the lens, just kidding around, joking around, hell, you'll be blinded for up to 10, 20 minutes, and then you'll be blinking to get that spot out of your eyes.
Right.
And we've learned that one of the best defense mechanisms is a spotlight or a flashlight. That's why we don't walk into the woods shining them around. We take people from all over the country out with us, because we tell of these things we do, and a lot of people don't believe it, but we've made believers out of people from Washington, the state of Washington, all the way to Florida, people from Vermont all the way to California. We have people that we let after we've checked them out beforehand to see that their motives are all good and honest, and we'll take them with us on some of our outings. And when they walk away, actually it lends credibility to what we do. Me and Coonbo both don't ask everybody to believe what we do and what we know. We generally take somebody with us that's fresh into this field, and we use the term, we baptize them. And everybody that's ever been with us has always remained in contact with us unless they wanted to turn around and exploit this thing for their own agenda or personal gain or whatever, and we've run into those type people too. But there's good people from all over the United States. Actually, we've had a fellow from New Zealand come over here and go out with us in Alabama one time.
Right, Daniel.
And yep, it was Daniel Falconer, a very good man. I think the world of the cat. He's can't wait until he comes back the next time. I mean, me and him stay in communication even up to this minute about it. But we basically learned that if you go out in the woods with a flashlight or a spotlight and you waving it all the way around, it ain't like a booger can't see that damn light shining, and he's going to stay on the outer reach and the perimeter of it, and so you're actually shooting yourself in the foot before you even start. Am I right, Tim?
That's right.
I can't say you guys have all the answers, but I can personally attest in my own journey into this mystery. I would listen to you guys starting out, but I would take the things that you were teaching me, and then whenever I was out on my own without you guys around or anything, I would try them out myself. And it made me a believer, at least in your knowledge and your techniques, and that's the thing. People can take these things and try them for themselves and get results with them.
Yeah. Yep. Well, the back to the spotlight deal. One of the prominent times that in my experience that I personally was charged by one, we had a couple of researchers out with us, and actually I think there was 4 or 5 of us, and we were in 2 vehicles. and one of them was a particular guy by the name of Armstrong, and we were at this corner on a dirt road back in the middle of nowhere down in Mississippi, next to a management area, wildlife management area, and I had done some calling and stuff down there a couple of times before, so we stopped and we sat there for a little while, and things were nice and quiet. And this was one of those really unusual times. One of the few times that I have been to an area where I didn't get had never gotten a reaction from the alpha in the past, but all of a sudden he decided that he was gonna come see what's going on. And anyway, I let out a call, and he instantly screamed back from down the bottom to the south of us, and here he came. And I mean, he was tearing through the brush like a dadgum runaway bulldozer.
Remember that night, Tim? It was foggy as hell.
It was real foggy.
I was with you.
it was real foggy. The bottom, it was like out of a horror movie. It was, the fog was hanging low, and we were sort of up on a rise. And as we were coming up in there, our headlights were shining out over the top of the fog, down in the bottom, and but I guess the fog was probably 10, 12 feet up off the ground. But anyway, we're up there and or higher, and this thing here it comes. I mean, it's tearing through this brush and weeds, doing probably 25, 30 miles an hour, and probably about every 20, 30 yards, it's letting out another scream, and all the other supposed amateur researchers that we were taking out showing, they piled in a vehicle and locked the dadgum door, and there's Bear and I standing out there, and I think Bo abandoned us too. I think Bo piled in the truck, and
Bo was a coward.
And anyway, we're standing out there. Bo was my German Shepherd, the best booger dog in the world, and anyway, we're standing there. And I have a 3 million candle power spotlight in my hand, and there was where the brush ended and a little lip of the little tongue end of a soybean field started. There was at the most probably 25 yards, 25 to 30 yards from the edge of the brush to where we were standing, and it was just wide open in between us.
Well, you got to remember, Tim, remember it was coming up that hill, and it was coming out of the fog, because we didn't even see the spotlight was reflecting back on us off the fog.
Well, we didn't try. Right initially, though, we didn't shoot the spotlight at the booger. Nope. But I'm standing there, and when I realized this son of a gun's coming on, he's not going to stop out there at a distance. And when he busted out of the brush and hit that dadgum wide open field, I put the spotlight right in his face, and he slammed on the brakes and throwed his arm up and screamed at us and turned sideways and turned to his left and with his right arm up over his face, and he let out another couple of screams and and there was another one behind him that never had made the first noise. And they stepped back into the edge of the brush and stood there and screamed at us 3 more times. And and really, did we know, Bear, that the other guys had already abandoned us at that time, or did we look around and realize we were the only two stupid
We looked around and saw that we was the only stupid son of a bitch standing there.
Yeah, we didn't even realize that we had been abandoned. and the booger stood there and screamed at us, I don't know, several more times, and finally he figured out that that we weren't going to bother him. He didn't want to mess with us any further, so he just shut up. We heard him crackling and popping, going back through the brush, and we looked around and said, "Whew, boy!" We looked around and we're there standing there by ourselves. And
well, we said, "Boy, that was fun."
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Before we get farther, guys, I want Matt to tell a story about how his cousin almost got us killed one night in Texas with a spotlight.
I was going to let you tell the story out of fairness.
Okay. Well, out of fairness, but okay. Believe it or not, and this is really weird because even we discussed this after the fact. I've only spoke at one Bigfoot conference in my whole life. I swore then I'd never go back to another one because it's nothing but a waste of time and you can't find a booger at any of them. But while we was down there, it was out of Jefferson, Texas, and we went to this place called Lake of the Pines, which is due west of Jefferson. And we was going to kill two birds with one stone. While I was there speaking at the damn conference, we was going to have an outing at Lake of the Pines.
Now,
that day, go ahead.
Not to already interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I want to add this. The guy that was with me was a complete skeptic. The only reason he was there was because he didn't want me going down there and hanging out with a bunch of crazy people.
Yep.
Because all those crazy people, Matt's gotten mixed up with a bunch of crazy people that believe in Bigfoot, so he's going to go down there to make sure I don't get in any trouble.
And then he liked to got me and you killed.
Now, you can go ahead.
All right, whenever we come to a new location, way before we even go to one, me and Coonbo, and I've taught this to Matt, we pull out the topo maps. I was told once by a very big expert in this field that you cannot find a Bigfoot by looking at topo maps, which that's another story in itself. And Johnathan, you need to remember this to remind Matt one day so he can tell everybody that, yes, you can find a booger with topo maps. Am I wrong, guys?
I don't even go looking until I've studied the maps thoroughly.
Let's put it this way. I found them at Jonathan's house, and I've never been to it.
Well, Johnathan knows this, too, then. Didn't that blow your mind when you sent your GPS coordinates and Matt told you where they was at, Johnathan?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was a little trait that I taught Matt. Me and him sat at his kitchen table one night for about 4 or 5 hours, and he was taking notes like crazy. And he's gotten pretty damn good at it, if not one of the best out there. But me and Tim recognized and learned this a long time ago. But getting back to the story, we always would topo out these locations before we'd go there. And we'd see these little off-the-beaten-track roads and logging roads and all kind of stuff. We use satellite, GPS, MapQuest, topo maps, everything we can before we go to an area. And I got to give Matt credit, see, because actually he had done his homework, and I told him when we arrived down there at Lake of the Pines and was putting up tents, I said, we got to have it physically scouting before we go out in the woods tonight. And Matt had done his homework. He had found this damn road on the map. And he said, Bear, I can't wait to show you this damn road. And wasn't it just me and you that went and scouted out first, Matt? I think it was.
Yeah, there might have been one or two. It wasn't the whole group for sure.
I think Rowdy went with us at that point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he wasn't leaving your side to all us crazies.
Right.
He figured, yeah.
Until he almost drove my damn truck into the lake with Gerald, but that's another story.
Yeah, that's another story. We found that out later. But anywho, when me and Matt took out on this logging road and we drove down on it, I looked around and I looked at Matt. I said, Matt, this is the spot. He said, Bear, I think it is too, and I don't even know what I'm thinking about. It just looked boogery, didn't it, Matt?
It just had a look about it.
And yeah, it was a mixture of swampland with hardwoods and pines all in there, correct?
Right, which later on we figured out the significance in that, but
Yep. Yeah, we did.
At the time, we didn't know about it, so.
Right, because this first time me and Matt had ever laid eyes on this place other than looking at it through topo charts and maps. And even before me and Matt went to physically look this place up in the daylight, we had pulled out the topo maps. I think we even used the hood of your truck and spread them out, and you pointed at it. You said, Bear, we need to go look at this.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, let's go. And we loaded up and took out. And when we rode down this old logging road, we come upon this spot. It looked like if you would envision a S curve, like the letter S. Am I wrong, Matt?
No, that's right.
And I looked at Matt, and I said, Matt, this is the spot. And he said, well, why is this the spot? I said, these things cross in locations. They don't cross in straightaways, but they will if they have to, as long as they've got something to break the outline of their body when they're crossing the road. And that includes any major highway, any dirt road, anywhere if you just are riding and looking for Bigfoot. Actually, I make it a practice in my many travels, that while I'm riding down the road, I just look for places that look like if I was a booger, would I cross right here?
Which
and
is
it's
why
something.
you hear
Go
these
ahead.
reports of people going down the road. I came around a curve and saw this, or I came over the top of the hill and saw this.
Or I saw it on the slope of a hill,
Right.
breaking the outline of its body. Because it's very rare for these things to cross on an open stretch of road. They're to them, their highways and pathways are just like our highways and pathways, only they haven't got a defined road to go on. They already know which way to go. They already know in their logic how to get there without being seen. And there was an S curve, and I looked at it, and we got in the apex of that S where we couldn't see where we come from, and we couldn't see ahead. And I looked at Matt, I said, this is where we are going to come tonight. And I think Rowdy made a wisecrack remark about, yeah, we're going to see Sasquatch here, ain't we? I mean, he gave me and Matt unmerciful hell that Friday. Every time we turned around, he'd either be giggling or whatever about what's going on. And I liked old boy, don't get me wrong, because I just looked at him and grinned real hard. Okay, yeah, I'm going to introduce you one. You're going to shake hands with him. He said, yeah, right. I mean, he's sitting there making all these smart ass. But anyhow, that night after I was giving my little speech at the conference, we couldn't wait to get back to the dang camp, because we knew that as soon as we got back to camp, we was going out and we was going to see if Lake of the Pines had any boogers. So we loaded up and we took two vehicles. And in the first vehicle was me, Matt, and his cousin.
I got to cut you off again.
Go ahead.
Just to make another point.
Well, go ahead.
About, how we became the outlaws, so to speak.
Yep.
We're there at a conference. Everybody else at this conference, including research people from that area, researchers from outside, from other states, they're all there, and they're all sitting in a hotel drinking coffee, chatting, and we're out looking for these things in the woods at the conference.
Yeah, in a spot we've never been in our life.
Right.
I mean, and the guys are sitting in the hotel rooms and at home drinking coffee. This is their land. I mean, They hunt there, they fish there. I mean, if anybody ought to be telling anybody where to go, they're the ones ought to be telling us where to go. And it's not to hell either. But that's basically what we get anyhow. But Matt's completely correct. They was at this conference just to get their autograph book signed or their picture taken with so-and-so or this and other, but I'm not going to get into that either. We head back in there. We come up with a game plan. We told the other party, which was a very good friend of ours, another outlaw, Dan Ricky, and he had several people. I think, no, Vicky wasn't there, was she?
Yes,
it was Kelly.
There.
Yeah, Vicky was there. Kelly Mattingly.
Kelly and the dogs.
And the dogs, but we left the dogs at the camp, thank God. And or did we? I think that's why we separated from them, because we didn't want the dogs with us.
That first night, I think the dogs were at camp, but the second night they went, or vice versa.
Right.
I don't really remember about the damn dogs.
Yeah, I don't either. But I knew I didn't want them ankle biters around us, because I knew we wouldn't have no success or nothing, because they wasn't like Bo, the German Shepherd or Coonbo.
Yeah,
Actually, this was one trip Coonbo couldn't make, even though he was asked to speak at this conference too. I forgot why he couldn't make it, but he just wasn't there.
Had a breakdown at work.
That's what it was.
Yeah, we had a...
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Anyhow, we had planned it out that Dan's party was going to go ahead of us, and we was going to stop at this S curve. And they went on around this road, but we also maintained radio communication with walkie-talkies between the parties. And we had already had a plan, and what the plan was, we was going to give Dan and them sufficient time to get down to where they was going, and since we had already would be stopped, we was going to let the surrounding area just quiet down. I mean, when you pull into an area in your truck, you're going to be slamming doors, getting out, this, that, and other. You've got to let the surrounding environment settle down because you're intruding in that area. And I've done already respectfully asked everybody to try to be as quiet as possible. But you got to remember, we had Matt's cousin who was bound and damn determined to show us that we didn't know what the hell we was talking about. And so Dan was supposed to go in there. We was going to give him about 15 minutes so he could let his surrounding area calm down. Because don't think these boogers can't hear your vehicles when you're pulling in there because you're a fool. That's what they're built for. They know when something strange is in their area. If they didn't, we wouldn't even be just having this discussion now. We'd be seeing them in encyclopedias or on the internet on Wikipedia other than being an unknown species.
Right.
But
this particular area was actually state land for hunting. And
right.
They just happened to have the front gate open.
Yep.
I think deer season was getting ready to start, bow season maybe, or black powder or something.
Yeah, it was bow season because this was in, what was it, August or September when we went? I think
that was in October, I think.
Yeah, it may have even been October. But that's another thing
this road that we were on, don't think we just pulled off the main road and there it is. It was like probably 3 or 4 mile drive back to that S-curve.
Oh, yeah.
You know, on this unmaintained hunting road, this hunting access.
Yeah, we wasn't near civilization, nowhere where we was at.
So
I mean, we was in the middle of...
Like, our vehicles coming in there, it's going to disturb whatever's there. They're going to hear us coming.
Yep, and that's a given. And see, that has a main part of this story, which I'll come to in a second. When we get out of the vehicles, Matt's cousin is just jumping around all over the place. Can't wait to show us that we don't know what the hell we're doing. All right. That day, the guy that come with me was a guy named Sam Armstrong out of Memphis. And same Armstrong fellow that Coonbo was talking about in the other story that happened in northeast Mississippi. He had driven down with me. And due to the fact that, you know, I brought him with me, he had went to Walmart and he had bought 2 spotlights and he got them at a good price. And Matt and Coonbo both tell you, I don't normally carry a flashlight or a spotlight. I mean, I normally don't. But I think karma was in play that night and knew what was going to happen because I had that spotlight that Sam had just given me in my hand because I didn't want him to feel like I was disrespecting him.
He was real proud of these spotlights.
Do what?
He was real proud of the spotlights and wanted you to use one.
Oh, yeah, and I wasn't going to do that to him. So I had it in my hand. And I normally wouldn't have it in my hand. That's the whole point of what I'm coming to. Sam also had, I think, wasn't it a 9mm holstered on his hip? That was the only weapon we had, Matt. Yeah. And he had a spotlight too. Well, we got out of the vehicle, and it hadn't been 15 minutes. I'd guess it was less than 10. Dan and them hadn't even actually had time to set up. I didn't even make one call.
No, I mean, as soon as we got there, and while we were getting out of the car and shutting the doors, I heard brush cracking over there on that side.
Yep.
And that was, you know, before we were even out of the car. And
that was the catalyst.
And then everything had kind of settled down a little bit, and you know, Roddy had grabbed one of my spotlights that I had. I didn't even have a light on me or anything at the time. We hadn't even started yet.
Yep. Well, Matt made the mistake of mentioning he heard something over there to our east. When he did, Mr. Rowdy, his cousin, who was going to protect all of us, Matt, from all of us idiots, decided, I'm going to show you there ain't no such thing as a damn Bigfoot. And here he goes tearing to the east, straight toward where that sound come from. He runs up there, not really running. It was a fast-paced walk with determination. I mean, he was slamming them elbows back and forth, and he had his little spotlight turned on. I think I even said, hey, man, you need to turn that off. You need to turn that off. And, I didn't even have time to get upset or anything. And before you know it, he hadn't even got 20 yards into the woods. He was still within sight of us because me and Matt was actually trying to catch up to him because, even that time of the year in Texas, you still got snakes crawling around.
Right.
And, and you got to remember now, Rowdy is a city boy.
Yeah.
And this idiot was going full-blown.
You and Sammy had walked kind of north down the edge of the road a bit,
right,
away from the vehicle, and he was back there by the vehicle, standing in the tree line. And at this point in time, I kind of wandered off back across the road towards the west to check out the other side of the road and see if I could see where Dan and them were down the road.
Yep.
And that's when Roddy started screaming about eye shine.
Yep. He starts saying, there's eye shine over there. I said, how in the hell he know what eye shine is? I mean, I'm sitting there, what in the hell has he done seen? And before I know it, Rowdy took off after it. And it was from the same side of the damn road that Matt had already heard that unsettling down over there by what it was. It could have been a possum. It could have been a coon, but it wasn't. It was actually a booger that had slipped in there by hearing us come in there, and he had done already found him a seat behind this little tree, which had a log that was down, not across the booger's path, but it was to its left side. And Rowdy took out walking straight as he could in a beam line right to him. And I be damned, I've thought about this a million times since it's happened over the years. And I said, I wonder what the hell that damn booger was thinking when Rowdy was walking straight toward him, acting like a damn fool. Because Rowdy didn't have a clue in the world that this thing was there. And Rowdy almost stepped on the son of a gun before the thing decided it better stand up and let its presence be known. And when he did, that bastard stood up. I guess he probably wasn't, I bet he was within arm reach of Rowdy. Well, I think they was both scared the hell out of each other. Now you go with your.
Well, Roddy had saw the eye shine. It was actually Chad Scott that taught him about the eye shine deal.
Right.
And
in one of y'all's many backyard conversations.
Right. And Chad had told Roddy that a mistake a lot of people make when they're out looking for these things is because you always hear about how tall they are. So people always point their spotlights up in the air, and he said, but whenever these things are close by and they're hiding from you, they'll drop down on the ground, on their belly.
Yep.
So you need to look down on the ground for the eye shine. And that's what Roddy had done, and he had saw this eye shine. Well, whenever he hit it the first time, it ducked back behind the tree real fast. And according to him, at this point in time, it was probably laying at like a 3/4 angle with its body hidden by the cover and that log that you were talking about and everything. And it just basically had one shoulder and its head peeking around the edge of this tree down at the base.
Yeah, because Rowdy was blinding the hell out of it.
Right, and it ducked back behind the tree. And this is whenever he starts moving towards it. And he catches movement, and the, spotlights have, the main beam that's focused, but there's a little bit of area where it fades around the edge of the beam, and in that little fade area, right, on up the tree, he caught a flash of eye shine again. So he moves his spotlight up higher on the tree, and it ducks behind the tree again. And that's whenever he started getting the panicky voice. Well, he's trying to negotiate, and something happened, and we've talked about this later about there possibly being a second one there, because he caught movement at a different tree a little bit farther back. So he had
they don't come in singles, they come in pairs.
Right. So he had moved the spotlight over there to see what was going on. Nothing's there. At this point in time, he's freaking out a little bit. So he
Just a
moves the
little bit.
spotlight back over to the original tree, and while he has the spotlight focused on the tree, this Bigfoot, he said the first thing he saw was this big hand reach around and grab the trunk of the tree, and then it just quickly leaned over and looked right at him. And he could see the arm hair hanging down off the forearm, like from the momentum of it grabbing the tree. Like he said, the hair was about 4 inches long, and it like moved with the movement. And he's just blasting this thing. It actually put its face in the beam whenever it looked around the tree, and that may have played to our favor quite a bit in that situation.
Yep, it slowed him down. That's for damn sure.
And whenever it lunged out from behind that tree looking at him, that's when all hell broke loose.
Yep, because Rowdy did the number one thing you don't do. He turned around and hauled ass.
Now, while he's screaming about I got eye shine, and all that was transpiring, I start working my way back to the car to get the other spotlight out to go see what the hell's going on. And I had gotten the spotlight out and closed the door and turned towards the front of the car, and that's whenever Roddy hauled ass.
Yep, and I had already moved from where I was, me and Sam did, back towards the other side of the truck in the same general direction. And actually, Rowdy run right between me and Matt. Which,
like
when he run, he liked to knock me and Matt down. Me and Matt wasn't that close to each other, but me and Matt ain't little bitty men.
Well, he busted you in the jaw with the spotlight.
Yeah, he hit me in the damn head, that son of a bitch. But that wasn't even the best part of it was. He dove into the truck and he hit the lock on every damn door. He didn't give it. He was there to protect Matt, but he left Matt's half hanging out to the wolves.
He dove in the driver's side door, hit
over
the lock, and then
seat.
climbed into the back seat and got down in the back seat. Now, Roddy's a little guy. Okay, he's 5'6", probably 160 pounds.
Maybe soaking wet.
But keep in mind, when this happened, he was in his mid-20s. He's a grown man.
Yep.
And he's now locked himself in the vehicle, laying down in the back seat, screaming his ass off.
Whimpering. Now,
I don't remember what happened after that. Things got kind of foggy.
Well, it didn't get foggy to me. I saw that damn booger chasing Rowdy after he got enough vision to see that he was running from it.
Right.
And I think predator and prey syndrome took over. That son of a gun took out after Rowdy. Well, of course, when Rowdy run between me and Matt, guess where the son of a gun was heading to? Right to me and Matt. I had that spotlight in my hand, and I raised that sucker up, and I hit it full beam square in this booger's face. When I did, that son of a gun hit the ground like I hit him with a 2x4, throwing his left arm up over his eyes, screaming its royal ass off. While this was going on, Matt was heading to the truck. I was saying, Matt, get in the truck, crank up the truck, get in the truck, crank up the truck. Of course, Matt goes around there to the driver's side, and guess what? The damn door's locked. By this time, Sam done pulled his 9mm out of his holster. Bear, what'd I do? Should I shoot? I said, no, don't shoot him. All you're going to do is piss him off. Don't shoot him. I said, hit your spotlight, and let's try to blind his ass with these spotlights. So I had my spotlight dead on his face, and every time he'd try to look over his left arm, I'd hit him, and then he'd try to turn his head more towards his left, which that's where Sam was. Sam was to my right, and Sammy would hit him then with his spotlight. So he was hit by two beams of spotlights within probably, I'd guess 20 yards, Matt. He wasn't far from it.
It wasn't far. walked it off in my front yard, and it was, it started at about 30 feet, but he never, that was the thing that bothered us, is he didn't back off.
No,
And
he didn't back off.
And he still didn't back off. And while that was going on, I got my keys out of my pocket, and I got the door locks unlocked, and I'm getting in and putting the keys in the ignition and starting the truck. Well, the thing about my vehicle is whenever you turn the key to start the ignition, the doors lock.
And guess who was standing outside the son of a bitch flopping door handles then? It was the funniest thing in the world if it hadn't been so serious for what was going on.
A woodpecker was at my door trying to get in.
It was rat-a-tat. Well, it just wasn't only me. Sam was trying to get into the back door, and I was trying to get in, and we was trying to hold the damn spotlight on the booger's eyes. Sammy was trying to do it with the spotlight and holding his 9mm and trying to flop. You could hear them door handles just
I'm trying to yell at Bear and Sammy to quit pulling on the door handle so I can get the damn doors unlocked. And Roddy is in the back seat right behind me screaming, "Take me home, I want to go home." Well, that's an 8-hour drive, Rod. We're not going home right now. This is what Bigfooting is.
Yeah. You didn't believe it one, by God, you done cranked one up, Hoss. This is all your damn fault.
So where did you guys end up camping that night?
We stayed where we was at.
Yeah, we stayed actually until pretty damn late.
Yeah, actually what happened was after Matt finally got us to quit flopping on the door handles, we realized what he was saying to us because, the windows was up tight. And we stopped and we kept the booger. He was a maroonish reddish one. That's the color this one was.
The thing that kind of blew my mind was that bottom area there between us and that creek where it was all swamplands was all pine trees.
Yep.
And there was dead pine needles that just covered the ground. Yep. And this thing was the same color as the pine needles.
Yes, he was. Dead pine needles now, not greenwoods, guys. Y'all don't take Matt wrong here.
And
naturally camouflaged.
We got, the other group on the radio, and, there's a little bit of, did you make your call yet? Like, get down here now. We've got a situation. Like, we've got one right here. So they haul ass back down there.
Yeah. There's no need in looking for them. They done found us.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's when it got fun, guys, because the rest of the night, it took Vicky and Kelly a long time to settle Rowdy down. I mean, really. We was actually, we was really thinking about taking him to the hospital in Jefferson and have him sedated. I mean, we really discussed this because the boy was shaking. The boy was scared white. I mean, he was pale as a ghost. But once we got him settled down and then the numbers increased when Dan and them come around there, we kind of just stayed there. And Rowdy settled down, but he refused to get out of the truck. And as long as he was in the backseat of that truck, everything was fine. But that's when it really got fun, too, even though the most interesting part had already happened. We got completely surrounded by the whole troop, did we not, Matt?
Yeah. Whenever Dan and them were back on their way, we knew the numbers were coming. We got back out. We saw that one a couple more times before Dan and them got there, and it had hauled ass going back north, and I knew that it was going to try to get down there and cross the road, and I got it on the spotlight right at the edge of the road. And the thing that blew our minds was whenever I spotlighted it down the road, it hauled right back to where it was. It came right back to us. And there was this whole area behind us that was just woods. It could have taken off anytime it wanted to. But it held its ground. And like you said, after about
20 minutes or so.
20, 30 minutes, they started coming in from all areas, and they came right in close on top of us and just sat there all night.
I think actually when that one started screaming after we hit it with a spotlight and everything, and probably you could tell we was physically hurting it. We was hurting its eyes when we'd hit it directly with that spotlight, and that thing was yelling. We didn't even have time to crank up any recorders or anything.
No.
I mean, that's how quick this happened. And
well, you know, that one that you and Sammy sunburned down there at Boykin Springs with a spotlight. Yep. That thing was screaming his head off every time it would stop and y'all hit it with the lights. That thing would let out a big loud scream.
Well, that was an interesting night too, but that's another story.
Yeah.
We had a blast that night too, but you know, I'm not saying that every time we've ever gone out we've had success, but we, you know, knock on wood, I'd say we're 85% successful unless the weather turns against us. And, you know, you can plan your days off for that many people and to get that many people together to do something they all want to do as a team or whatever. And you're only given what man above gives you in the form of weather, and we have Bigfooted in rainstorms. Actually, Matt was with us on that. We was at Tawakoni in Texas, which is east of Dallas, and we had 3 tornadoes come over us that night, didn't we, Matt?
Yeah. Me being an Okie, I was ready to go get a motel room.
Well, yeah.
I didn't want to be.
But the water, if you remember, we was on basically an island, and the water surge from those tornadoes were washing across the causeways on both sides, and they closed down the road, and we was stuck where we was at.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember it.
Have we not had some adventures?